Ahoj úžasňáci, já vás srdečně vítám u dalšího podcastu na téma Storytime, a to o mém 4denním výletě do Paříže a zároveň Disneylandu. Jak už jste u mě zvyklí, tak samozřejmě vyprávění bude celé v angličtině, takže máte hned několik možností. Pokud jste na pokročilejší úrovni angličtiny a rozumíte takto mluvenému projevu v angličtině, tak klidně poslouchejte takhle formou podcastu dál. Pokud ještě tak pokročilí nejste a potřebujete si pomoci titulky, abyste mi rozuměli, tak vám silně doporučuji sledovat tento podcast na YouTube a ty titulky si zapnout, případně si zapnout dokonce dvojazyčný titulky, tedy jak češtinu, tak angličtinu. Návod na to, jak si zapnout dvojazyčné titulky, najdete v popisku tohoto videa, pokud nevíte, jak na to. Ve zkratce použijte k tomu aplikaci Language Reactor. Takže věřím tomu, že na úvod je toto všechno a pojďme se do toho pustit. Well, where to start? It's usually the most difficult part of the podcast, but let's do it. So, we went to Paris at the end of March. It was the Easter holiday. And we left on Saturday and we came back on Tuesday. I didn't even realize that we were actually going on holiday days prior to the holiday itself. Well, because it wasn't my plan to go to Paris. Paris wasn't really on my bucket list, but it was a nice coincidence and I got the opportunity to travel there with my husband and with two of my best friends who didn't know each other at the time, and we basically went there in a group of 4. And since the group of people were my favorite people on earth, I couldn't really resist, even though I didn't want to go to Paris in the first place. But when we were preparing the itinerary, well, we didn't really prepare an itinerary. I was just talking about preparing an itinerary, but I was too lazy to do it. But like one day I checked possible activities you could do in Paris and I found out that there's Disneyland. And I was like, yeah, Disneyland could be a good idea, but I was a bit shy to suggest it to my other friends because I thought they could be slightly judgmental, especially my husband and Vladia. So I just said it to Daya. And she was excited, super excited, like amazed by that idea. So we presented it to like the 2 guys of our trip, and they were excited as well. Well, they were mainly excited because we were excited, but they didn't mind going to Disneyland. And like the Disneyland itself made me really excited about the holiday because suddenly it wasn't only about going to Paris, which wasn't on my bucket list, but it was also going to Disneyland, which was on my bucket list. Originally, I thought I would go to Disneyland in the United States, but why not trying it in Paris, right? So yeah, the reason I'm saying it is that the week when we were supposed to leave, I kind of like thought about the fact that in a few days I'm gonna be in Paris, but I couldn't really act on it because I didn't feel like it. And the day before I got even depressed about leaving because I checked the weather forecast and it was the worst, because in the Czech Republic it should have been like 22 degrees and in Paris it should have been like 8 to 10 degrees maximum and raining, which is the worst thing that could happen because our plan was to walk around Paris and then walk around Disneyland. And like, if it was raining, it would like totally ruin the experience. So my depressed ass and my husband went to Decathlon to buy high quality raincoats. But well, I still felt terrible about it and I couldn't get excited about it. But luckily, by a miracle, it didn't rain at all. Or it did rain, but very little, and it was always super convenient because when it rained on Sunday, it was maybe for like 20 minutes. It was just a downpour, a very intense one, but also very short one. It was it was also a storm. We saw some lightning and heard some thunders, but at that time we were in a taxi, so we didn't really mind. And when we hopped off the taxi, we just ran to a restaurant and we hid there. And it also rained twice on Monday when we were in Disneyland, but we were also super lucky because when it started raining, we weren't waiting in a queue or something, so we could just like go to a building, and there were tons of buildings you could go to where you could hide, and we just hid there for, again, 15 minutes or something, and then it stopped raining. So actually the weather was perfect. It was actually even sunny. Like, it wasn't sunny on Saturday. It was cloudy and everything was gray and stuff, but like I was happy it wasn't raining. But on Sunday we also saw the sun and the blue sky, and it totally changes the atmosphere and the experience itself. So I was really excited. Anyway, so we're back on Friday. Yeah, on Friday when we got the raincoat, and I started packing my bag in the evening. I made sure I packed my ID card and my passport, both, just in case anything happened, you know me. And well, since I only had a carry-on and it was only for 4 days, I didn't really have a lot of trouble packing my bag. I feel like I get stressed about packing when the holiday or the getaway is for 5 or more days, and if it's fewer than 5, I'm alright, which was this case. And our plane was leaving at 8:40, so we didn't even have to wake up that early. I had my alarm set for 5:30 because I also wanted to wash my hair so that I don't have to bother in Paris and just like finish some packing. And yeah, so I slept really well. I felt well rested, and we arrived at the airport on time. I didn't know that we were almost gonna arrive late because there was a huge queue at the security check. We spent like, I don't know, 30 minutes there, which was the longest I've ever spent in a security check. I would always spend there like 10 minutes tops. So that was strange. And we arrived at the gate when it was basically closing, and I thought that if the plane is leaving at 8:40, that's also when the gate is gonna close, because when I traveled with Ryanair, it was always delayed at least by 40 minutes, let's say. So if it said that the departure time is 8:40, it was usually like 9:30 or later. And this time we actually set off at 8:40. So later on I was a bit like stressed reversely, because I realized how close we were to missing that plane. I wasn't even taking it seriously. But luckily, the flight to Paris was really short. Let me just check if I'm still recording. Oof, I am. So the flight to Paris was really short, so we basically just started watching a movie. We didn't finish watching it. We were, my husband and I, we were watching Boogeyman. It was a really strange horror movie. I didn't really like it, but it was the only thing we could watch because that was the only thing my husband downloaded, or it wasn't the only thing, but it was, it was my choice of all the other things he downloaded, which I considered even worse. Well, anyway, we arrived, it was a short flight, it felt short, and when we arrived in Paris, we were like discussing whether to get a taxi, because there were taxis everywhere and it seemed easily accessible. Like, you could just hop on and you would go wherever. But we eventually decided to take Bolt because we thought that Bolt would be more reliable and like cheaper than a taxi. And we should have taken a taxi. It was a mistake because, well, a Bolt driver accepted our inquiry, but like she told us she would arrive in like 5 minutes or something, but actually she arrived in like 25 minutes or something. So yeah, it was a bit frustrating when she told us she's gonna arrive in 2 minutes for the 5th time, and we could see her car still like standing on the map. And we weren't sure if the Bolt map is broken or if the driver is literally like staying in one place and lying to us, which we later on found out that she was most likely lying to us because it was the weirdest driver we've ever encountered. She was super smelly, and well, it wasn't comfortable driving with her. She also dropped us off a different location, and we like when we got out of the car, we didn't realize that we are nowhere near our accommodation. So we got our bags, she drove off, and then we realized that we are like I don't know how many, but it was like an hour and 20 minutes on foot away from our accommodation. So it was impossible getting there without another Bolt. So we were like super angry. We got into another Bolt. Later on, we found out that it was Vladimir's mistake because he entered a different address. But anyway, like, luckily she didn't drive us off. Luckily she didn't drive us to like a totally different location in a different direction. Luckily it was in the same direction, but still it felt inconvenient. But then we finally arrived at our flat, which was very near to Eiffel Tower. We could see the Eiffel Tower almost like immediately when we were on the street, but it was still far away. And it was one confusing thing about Paris, because you could literally see the sights, and you would feel that you're not so far away, but you were like extremely far away. It took you an hour. Even like, for example, when we saw the Arc of Triumph in a park, my estimation was that it's like 20 minutes away on foot, and it was an hour away on foot. So, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, the flat was amazing. To be honest, it was really, really expensive. Generally, the whole Paris is really, really expensive, which, to be honest, stressed me out a bit. Because, well, it basically, like, 4 days in Paris cost more than 10 days in Egypt in an all-inclusive, beautiful type of resort where we're going in September again. So, Anyway, so the flat was quite alright. I liked it. It had a weird disposition, but it was alright. But what wasn't alright was the squeaky floor. And if you're a light sleeper, as I am, and if you get awakened really easily, then you would find it troublesome as well. But what was more annoying was there were loud radiators, plural, and they were making like these extremely loud noises, especially at night, which would wake us up multiple times a night. And it was as if somebody was hitting the radiator with an iron stick repeatedly. Like, imagine every 4 seconds for like 10 minutes. Then, well, there were no noises for like an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours sometimes. And then it started again. Let me tell you, I didn't have a good night's sleep there, and I usually slept for like 6 hours, which, well, I know for some people, especially for mothers, it seems like, wow, 6 hours, that's amazing. But for me, for a person who needs at least 8 hours, it was difficult, but I managed. So when we arrived at the flat, Vláďa wanted to leave the flat immediately. He didn't want to spend any minute. He didn't want to waste a minute just like being in a flat, and we didn't have any plan. So we wanted to make a plan, but well, Vláďa wanted to leave. So we walked to a nice coffee shop where we got coffee and Coke and nice desserts, and we decided, or we were trying to decide on which restaurant to go to, which was hard because, well, Daya is a vegan, so of course we wanted to find something where they would have vegan options so that Daya didn't have to starve. And we didn't know how to find it. Like, all of us were looking around, but well, I got really confused with the restaurants on the map, and then I got annoyed by it and I stopped looking, and, well, you know the drill. And then Vláďa advised me to download the local food delivery app, and that was a really good hack. So we downloaded it, and there we could see all the open restaurants, and we could also check the menus, like what they offer. And we did find something, like my husband did. He found a French restaurant with, and I don't know what's it called. Daya told me the name of it. I should have made a note. Galets or something like, it's like Gallettes, and those are like signature pancakes. Like salty, savory pancakes, or yeah, they can be either. They can be both savory and sweet, I guess, but it's like a special type of dough, I don't know. So, but it looked really good, and it was French, and my husband wanted to go to a French restaurant, so we decided to go there. So, when we arrived there, we found out that it was totally packed. So there was no chance we would get a table anytime soon. They told us, like, yeah, come back in 2 hours, but like part of the group was already starving, so that was not an option. And I think that I was part of the group that was starving. I think that all of us were starving really. I don't know. So we decided, like, no way, that's not an option. So this whole terrible process of choosing another restaurant had to happen again, and we agreed on like a Japanese place with ramen. So I put it on a map, and like the guys were making fun of me because I'm terrible at navigating, and whenever I'm trying to navigate someone, we usually end up getting lost, and, well, it's I'm not good at orientation and stuff. So they wanted to have fun, so they decided that I would lead them to the ramen place. Yeah, so you can imagine it took us much longer than it would if somebody else was doing it. And when we were almost there, I suddenly noticed a notification on Google Maps that it was about to close. So we were like, well, there's no way we can make it. So we started looking around for a different restaurant, but we realized that everything was closing. We found out that like in Paris by 2:30, most places close, and they open at like 5 or later, which was surprising to me. I thought that in Paris they don't do siestas or stuff like that. Well, and in Prague everything is opened basically all day. So that was a frustrating moment because we needed to eat. And we eventually ended up in a weird Asian place, which seemed like the cheapest Asian place I've ever been to. And the food was, well, all right. Like, I could eat part of it, but it wasn't a culinary experience, let me tell you. But like, it did the job. We were full. All right. And after that, we decided to go to a park that, seemed really beautiful on the map. It was the park in front of the Eiffel Tower. So we were expecting like flowers, trees, and nice paths and all of that. And actually, it was just a mud. It was disgusting, and I didn't even like the Eiffel Tower. Like, yeah, it was huge. I expected it to be taller, to be honest. But well, I'm glad I could look at it. I don't necessarily have to do it again. And there were like tons of people. I was shocked that there were so many people, even though it was off season. Well, maybe it's because it was the Easter, but it was basically impossible to like wait in the queue to go up the Eiffel Tower. I thought that we would go up the Arc of Triumph for the view, but there was also an extremely long queue. So later on we went to Champs-Élysées Street, and that was nice. It was again crowded, but all right, we didn't go shopping because we only had carry-on bags which were already full. And we didn't have tons of money to spend in Dior and I don't know, like all these branded shops and so on. I'm not a fan, so I don't even know the names, to be honest. But it took us so long to walk around these sites because again, on the map it seems like it's not so far away from one another, but it is super far away. I would say that Paris is like Prague, but more, and I don't know how to call it, like spread, rozlezla. So it takes you twice as much time to go to places on foot, which we prefer. Well, I was, and I think all of us were like super tired after that long walk, so we decided to make a coffee stop. So we stopped at a local cafe. We drank coffee, some beers. I think the guys drank some beers, and we were just chilling, talking, and so on. And then we headed back home, which was like in another 90 minutes of a walk on foot. So we just ate dinner, I worked a bit, we chilled, we talked, we laughed, and we went to sleep. And I told you, sleep was terrible there because of the radiator, and also I don't usually sleep well when I'm in a different bed than I'm used to. And we have a huge bed at home. We have like 2 meters to 2 meters. So it's one of the like largest beds you can have. And whenever I travel, of course, all the beds, even though they should be king size, all of them are smaller than my bed, and I got used to having a lot of space around me, so it feels weird to be in a small bed, you know, but well, anyway. So day 2, on day 2, I woke up quite early. I didn't have to set an alarm, but still it was early, and there was also the clock was changing. The clock actually sprung forward the day, so we got an hour of sleep less even. So I felt really tired, but I didn't want to be in that bed any longer. So I made myself coffee and breakfast, and I spent the morning working before everybody else woke up and got ready, and we left the flat at like 9 a.m. so quite early. I was surprised. And we headed to Montmartre. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but we took a boat there. And Montmartre was my favorite part of Paris, to be honest. It was beautiful, but it was crowded. And there were a lot of stands and a lot of little coffee shops, and they were all selling crepes. And, well, to be honest, I'm not sure how to pronounce the word crepe. Cripe. No. I'm sorry, let me check it.
Crepe.
Crepe. Okay. So I wanted to get a crepe because it should be a signature dish for friends. And we couldn't find the right place because everything was crowded, and like my condition was that I want to sit down with that crepe or pancake. So eventually we did find a coffee place, but it was terrible. I didn't like the coffee. I didn't like the pancake because it was so cold and I expected it to be hot. So I didn't even finish it. I had to pass it to my husband, who didn't really want a pancake, but he did get it from me and from Vladimir because we couldn't finish our dishes. Poor husband, right? And after that like coffee and pancake break, we decided to walk to Louvre and the park around Louvre and leading to Arc of Triumph. And again, it was a super long walk. I was pretty much dead. But we couldn't take a break because we were meeting up with Vladia's friends from Prague who moved to Paris like 2 years ago, I believe, or a year ago. And we took another walk to another park to get coffee. And my back was already killing me because I don't know if you know, but if you follow me on Instagram, you must have noticed that I had blocked my back terribly, like a week before or 2 weeks before Paris. So luckily I wasn't in agony as I was when it happened, but well, I could still feel it. Especially after walking and like standing all day. So we went with the friends, we were talking, we got the coffee, I got flat white, and by the way, recently I've become obsessed with flat whites, and those are the types of coffee that I always get. And this was one of the best flat whites I've ever had in my life, so I still remember it. And this was the moment when there was this crazy downpour. So when we could already tell that it was about to rain any minute, we hopped on a taxi, just the four of us. We said goodbye to the friends and we drove to get an early dinner at our reserved place from the day before. If you remember the Gaillettes, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, that was full the day before, and we made a reservation for that day. And that day on Sunday it was completely empty. And to be honest, there were like two things. It was just 4 o'clock, and I normally eat dinner at like, I don't know, 6 or 7. So first of all, I wasn't hungry at all. And second of all, I didn't like the menu. I was really hoping that there would be something else, not just the Gaillettes or something, but there were literally just the Gaillettes, or there were like burgers from Pancakes and so on, and like all these crazy things. And I just really wanted to get a big piece of meat, and there wasn't an option on the menu. So I was just sitting there kind of frustrated, but I was like getting ready to order something later and just like survive it. But when Vláďa saw me, he suggested that František and Daya eat there where we went because there were some vegan options, and František was really excited about the restaurant, so we decided to split, like we stayed together, but we decided to split regarding the places where we were gonna eat, and so they ordered like Freya. Daya ordered the gajec and František ordered the pancake burger, and to my surprise it was quite alright and quite tasty. So yeah, I might have made a mistake by not ordering it, but we found that there was a steak restaurant, or like generally like a fancy French restaurant, like 10 minutes away from the place we were at that point, and it had already stopped raining as well, so that was perfect. So we decided to take a walk to that place, and it was like killing two birds with one stone, because we wanted to go to a French restaurant to try frog legs and snails and everything anyway, so we were quite worried that we wouldn't have time to manage it on Tuesday, which was the day we were leaving back to Prague, and we could experience it now. So when we arrived there, well, let me take a sip of my water. Sorry. So when we arrived there, we ordered snails, we ordered frog legs, we ordered, what's it called? Oh geez, foie gras, I believe, and I got steak with green beans and like fresh, not fresh, grilled or sauteed vegetables. And all of it was perfect. To be honest, I didn't really enjoy the snails. On the contrary, it was my husband's favorite dish, which I was shocked by. To be honest, I wouldn't really recommend the snails. I just ate one and I don't have to do it again in my life. But I really liked the frog legs, but still, it was basically just bones, no meat. And the foie gras was also delicious, but I wouldn't necessarily have to order it again. I really enjoyed the steak though, that was exactly what I was craving, so I felt like totally satisfied. And later on we walked back to our flat to have our weekly biblical study, which we have every Sunday at 7 p.m. No reason not to have it when we were in Paris, so I thoroughly enjoyed that, but I got a headache during it, so I went to bed quite early, like at 10 p.m. or at like 10:30, which isn't which I wouldn't say is early normally, but it is early on a holiday. And I didn't sleep well again because of the terrible radiator and the noises in the flat and all of that. But then there was day 3, our last full day in Paris, and it was the most important day because it was the day we were going to Disneyland, and I woke up feeling so excited. So we had to wake up with an alarm quite early because the Disneyland opens at 9:30, and we wanted to be there a bit earlier, and also it took us like 90 minutes from our flat to get to Disneyland. So what I would recommend, definitely find out where there is the train. And I'm not sure if it's a train or if it's metro. I think it's train, but it also goes underground. And there is a special line. It has a certain number, I don't know which takes you directly to Disneyland for like €5 or something, or €7 for a person. And it took an hour, so we took a taxi to the train, and the train itself took an hour to get there, and we were like super glad we got there earlier than we thought we would, because we were there at 9 and the queue already started building up, and luckily we arrived 30 minutes early, so it didn't take us long to get in. And what I highly recommend, if you ever go to Disneyland, download their app, because the app was everything. Thanks to the app, we had the best experience, because in the app there is a map of the Disneyland, where you can see all the lands. You know, there's like frontier lands, there's adventure land, like all these topical lands. And you can also see the attractions that are in those locations. And the most important thing, you can also see the waiting times. And I was prepared for the worst, to be honest. People told me that the waiting times in Disneyland are crazy, so I thought that we would, for example, have to stay in a 90-minute long queue, and that we would only make it to like 2 or 3 attractions in a day. But luckily it was the opposite. I think the longest time we were waiting was 30 minutes. But they have it really like strategically well planned, so you're never just standing in the queue, you're constantly moving, and they create this beautiful surrounding around you, so there's always something to be looking at. And as the queue is constantly moving, because it's like super fast paced, super well organized, they take in like, I don't know, maybe tens of people a minute, to these attractions. So it never felt long. To be honest, I never felt bored standing in a queue, which is surprising, to be honest, at least for me. So we really enjoyed some roller coasters. They were crazier than I thought they would be, and it really got me excited about going to Prater. And I especially enjoyed 3 rides. The first one was in Frontierland, and it was the like roller coaster ride. Then there was a scary house. I didn't really enjoy that because it wasn't scary at all. But there was also a Pirates of Caribbean ride, which was amazing. And there was this Indiana Jones roller coaster, which was quite crazy. I was happy it was short because it was intense, but super thrilling. And we also got a lunch at what was it? It was in the Frontierland, and it was the cheapest restaurant in Disneyland. But to be honest, I think it was the best restaurant, because they gave me half of a chicken. Literally, like it was a typical American restaurant, and they had really delicious fries, and the portion sizes were huge, and you got a huge value for the money you spend there. And I loved it, and it was a huge place, so you didn't have to make a reservation before, which like to the other places which were more expensive, you really needed a reservation. They wouldn't have a table for you without it, so this was a good choice. And we also we spent a lot of time just walking around the park, and luckily it wasn't that big, so that we wouldn't manage to walk through it all. We did. And I don't know what to say about Disneyland. I would just say that it was one of the best experiences of my life. I'm never going to forget it. I loved every minute of it. It made me totally excited. I was also super tired at the end, but I was still full of these experiences that we basically spent the rest of the day just like talking and laughing our asses off, because we were full of endorphins from that beautiful day. We went to bed past midnight, I believe, because we were just laughing. Like, we all had to take multiple showers because we got so sweaty from laughing so much. Yeah, I don't think I've ever laughed so much as I did that night. Yeah. It was a perfect day from the morning to the evening. And yeah, like day 3, the night was the worst because the radiators were the noisiest, and also like French people came back to the building from the Easter holiday, most likely, and it felt like the walls are made of paper, because we could hear what they were saying, we could hear their steps, we could hear everything, and like it was impossible to sleep there. I even wanted to take a nap because I decided to stay at home or at the accommodation with my husband all day basically, and I really wanted to take a nap, but it was impossible because of all the noise around. So as I already mentioned, we spent the day in the flat because we were super tired, and I already had a lot of work that I wanted to start doing, and my husband was tired, so he was playing some games, I was working. Then we went on a walk, and we slowly packed our bags. And well, you know, all the usual stuff. We finished eating some leftovers, which was quite hard because I always buy more food than I eat, but I feel sorry about throwing the food away, so I always try to eat everything that I bought. So I felt super stuffed the day 4, but yeah, luckily I didn't feel sick on the plane, which was all right. Okay, so now I spent some time recording, even though it wasn't recording. So I'm gonna have to do it again. So what I was saying is that like the Tuesday, which was our last day, was quite boring, but I thought I could share with you 2 like funny fuck-up stories that you could possibly like laugh over. So one thing you don't know about my husband is that he loves running baths, and we don't have a bath at home, we have a shower. So you can imagine that he got really excited when he saw that the apartment we chose had a bath. Well, on Tuesday, which was our last day, we didn't have any plan for it, was finally the day he could take the shower. But suddenly, like, all of us wanted to take, well, not a shower, take the bath. Suddenly all of us wanted, and Vladia was the first one. So he ran the bath, he had an amazing time, and when he came back to the living room where I was sitting with Daya, he gave us instructions how to run it so that we don't run out of hot water, which can happen since we didn't have any experience with the boiler there, so we weren't sure how much hot water there is and how long it takes, you know. But eventually neither me nor Daya wanted to take a bath, so both of us took a shower. And when we were done with the showers, František went to the bathroom to run the bath, but Vladia forgot to give him the same instructions as he gave to us. So what happened? My husband started running the bath. He wasn't checking the water, and without him noticing, the water suddenly became cold, and since he didn't notice, he let it run. So what it did with the hot water that was in the bath, it made it cold. Well, not entirely cold, but let's say like warm. Definitely not hot enough for a good bath. So he got in and he was waiting for some time to for the water to get hot again. It didn't, so eventually he had to take a cold shower. We were laughing so hard because he was the only one who really wanted to enjoy the bath, and well, this is how the story ended. And the second thing is that like our plane was scheduled for, I believe, 6:40 or something, and we were staying maybe 30 minutes away from the airport, and originally we wanted to take a metro and a train later, but we decided that it would be quite complicated and uncomfortable with our suitcases and bags and everything, and we didn't want to get lost. So we checked the traffic situation and it was quite alright, so we decided to take a taxi, like a Bolt, as we did most of the time. And Vláďa is a person that needs to have a plan B always. So he's always prepared for the worst case scenario. And when he was telling me like, yeah, the taxi is gonna arrive at 3, and even if the taxi like crashes or if the car breaks down or if we get lost or anything, we still have time to get to the airport in time on foot, which I started laughing about because it felt ridiculous to me. I couldn't imagine a situation when we would get on a taxi and the taxi would break, and it was a ridiculous situation. But guess what? So we called the cab. It came to pick us up, and so, like, we are driving. Yeah, we're possibly like 25 minutes on the road already. We're driving on a highway, and guess what? Suddenly the car stops. Like, it stopped on a highway where there were cars driving, let's say, 150 kilometers per hour. And it broke down. And at that moment, like, I was in shock because I have seen so many like tragic car accidents when everybody died because the car suddenly stopped for some reason nobody knew, and some other driver hit them from behind. But when you hit a stationary car on a highway driving 150 kilometers per hour, you can easily kill everybody in that car, including yourself. So I almost started panicking because I know that the worst thing you can do is stay in a broken car on a highway, but there was no place we could go. You know, it looked totally different than the Czech highways. There were like barriers, so we couldn't cross the barrier. And the guy runs out of the car. I was surprised that nothing hit him because of the traffic. And he like opens the boot, he fixes something, he jumps back in, and he drives off. So we were okay eventually, but at that moment it felt surreal because can you imagine, and especially after what Vláďa predicted that this could happen, and it happened. Well, that was odd. But we got to the airport, we arrived there I think like 3 hours before the gate was closing, so we spent a lot of time there. We went shopping, we had dinner, we were just like sitting in a cafe and chatting before we got on board, and everything was alright. We arrived at home at like 10 p.m, which was quite alright, I would say. We unpacked, of course, said hello to our dogs, and we went to bed. One unfortunate thing is that my husband fell sick the day after, and he's still sick a week later. So I hope he'll be okay soon, but luckily I didn't catch anything. My immunity is on point. So that would be it for the podcast about Paris. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions regarding Paris, Disneyland, anything, like, feel free to contact me via my Instagram or my email. It's up to you. And I hope I'll share with you another travel diaries quite soon. So have a nice day.
Chcete žít život bez jazykové bariéry a dosáhnout výsledku svých snů?
Chcete na vlastní kůži zažít, jaké to je učit se anglicky systematicky, zábavně a vidět pokrok? Chcete se nechat vést profesionálem, který výuku přizpůsobí vašim potřebám, poradí vám, namotivuje vás a dá vám zpětnou vazbu, abyste věděli, co používáte správně a co špatně a mohli se díky tomu posunout? V tom případě jste narazili na toho pravého lektora pro vás. V základu nabízím 2 formy spolupráce. Online klub pro samouky a individuální jazykový mentoring. Jak si vybrat? Já ve výuce kladu obrovský důraz na individualitu. Jinými slovy to znamená, že neexistuje univerzální řešení pro každého, ale že každý by měl následovat takový systém a styl výuky, který bude odpovídat jeho osobnosti, jeho možnostem, ať už časovým nebo finančním, a také jeho cílům. Představím vám tedy tyto 2 formy spolupráce na konkrétních lidech a sami se rozhodněte, jaký popis na vás sedí spíše. Máme zde Kláru a Ivet. Klára se chce zlepšit v angličtině, ale má spoustu dalších povinností. Nemůže se angličtině věnovat naplno, ale ani tak se na ní nechce vykašlat úplně. Nechce nad sebou mít přímou kontrolu lektora a tak velkou zodpovědnost, ale vyhovuje jí komunita samouků, kde získá potřebnou podporu a motivaci. Je poměrně samostatná, ale chybí efektivní plán, struktura a zpětná vazba profesionála, aby věděla, že se posouvá. Pokud jste jako Klára, je pro vás vhodnější online klub pro samouky. A co Iveta? Iveta je ochotná angličtině teď dát maximum, aby dosáhla svého cíle. Najde si i 30 minut každý den. Potřebuje individuální plán přímo jí na míru, aby nestrácela čas a dosáhla svých výsledků co nejrychleji. Skupinová výuka jí moc nevyhovuje. Potřebuje hodně pozornosti, podpory a vedení. Zároveň si na sebe potřebuje tak trošku ušít bič, aby jí to donutilo pracovat a neusnout na vavřínech. Pokud jste jako Iveta, tak individuální jazykový mentoring bude ta správná cesta pro vás. Pokud bych to měla shrnout, tak zásadní rozdíly mezi klubem a individuálním mentoringem jsou v časové náročnosti. Klub vyjde na zhruba 10 minut denně, mentoring ideálně na 30 minut denně, ale záleží tam už na individuální domluvě, protože to je přece jenom individuální jazykový mentoring. Klub, co se týče klubu, tak tam je výuka přizpůsobená skupině. To znamená, nerespektují se v ní potřeby jednotlivců, ale potřeby celé skupiny. Podle zpětné vazby účastníků přizpůsobují program, který je vhodný pro úrovně A2 až B2. To je jinými slovy znamená, že je třeba mít nějaký základy v angličtině, není vhodný pro úplný začátečníky, ale zároveň pokud už teď mluvíte naprosto plynule, máte pokročilou úroveň vyšší než B2, tak ani pro vás není skupinový program vhodný. Individuální jazykový mentoring je na druhou stranu vhodný naprosto pro každého, neboť výukový plán se 100% podřizuje vašim potřebám, koníčkům, preferencím i cílům. Pokud potřebujete vyšperkovat angličtinu kvůli maturitě nebo zkouškám, zaměříme se na ně. Pokud kvůli cestování nebo pracovnímu pohovoru, tak to samé. V klubu pro samouky máte možnost dostávat pravidelně zpětnou vazbu na vaše odpovědi, komentáře, otázky, ale je třeba být samostatný a úkoly dělat ze své vlastní vůle. Nebudu vám stát za zády s bičem. Pomůže vám ale obrovsky to, že dostanete mini úkol na 10 minut každý den a tím pádem pro vás bude jednoduché vytvořit si udržitelný denní návyk. V mentoringu budete mít mou plnou pozornost, budeme prakticky na týdenní bázi v úzkém kontaktu a neustále sledovat váš pokrok a upravovat plán podle vašich potřeb a preferencí. Budeme pracovat s pravidelnými deadliny, abyste angličtinu nemohli jenom tak odložit na dobu neurčitou. Znáte to. A tím pádem dosáhli tak svých cílů. Cenově klub vyjde na $20, což je podle aktuálního kurzu zhruba 600 Kč měsíčně. Individuální jazykový mentoring vyjde na 2500 Kč měsíčně. Aktuálně k dnešnímu datu 14. prosince 2022. Pokud stále nemáte jasno v tom, jakou službu si vybrat, napište mi na e-mail eliska@vyukaionline.cz. Já vám to napíšu i do popisku. A zároveň, pokud se chcete přihlásit nebo jen získat více informací, pročíst si recenze mých studentů a podobně, tak stačí rozkliknout také odkaz v popisku videa a tam se dozvíte vše potřebné. A já se na vás budu hrozně moc těšit.